Good morning and welcome to Lattes and Leaders with Dr. Brad Johnson, best-selling author and accomplished public speaker specializing in education and educational leadership. I am your co-host, Jeremy Johnson, organizational psychology consultant specializing in career coaching, training, and development. Meet us here each week to discuss topics in education and leadership and meet with some of the top education talent and thought partners from across the globe. So grab your latte, sit back, and enjoy a relaxed conversation that will leave you informed and encouraged.
Welcome to Lattes and Leaders. We are very excited to have our special guest with us today, Dr. Brandi Brotherton.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll jump right in and let you just share a little bit of your educational journey with the listeners.
Sure. So, hi everyone. Like Brad said, my name is Dr. Brandi Brotherton, and I am currently in my 22nd year. I can't believe that's real. In my 22nd year in education, all in public education. And I started out actually not desiring, or I guess following someone else's dream to be an attorney. And I actually started out in law school straight out of college. I went to Oklahoma State University. I was the first in my family to go to college. I'm a first gen kid. And so I was living a dream that was a lot of other people's dream that I didn't want to let down. And so I went to law school for a year until I found out that I couldn't make the money I needed to make or wanted to make doing the type of law I wanted to do. And so I called my parents and told them that I was going to follow my dream of being a high school teacher and basketball coach. And so I found myself in this huge city. I am from a town of 1,000 people with 32 students in my graduating class, and somehow I'm in this mega hub of Houston, Texas. And I not only found myself in Houston, Texas, but in the heart of Southwest Houston, Texas, in Alief ISD, a district that services thousands of students, and the high school that I landed in had right at 4,000 students. And
Wow.
so I was in the heart of Southwest Houston, inner city, teaching at a Title I campus of about 4,000 students. And in that journey, my first year, honestly, I didn't know if I would make it. I was in an environment that was very unknown to me, with just the sheer size and the diversity, to be honest. And I made it. And 22 years later, we are still here. I fell in love with kids. I fell in love with impact. I fell in love with influence and with really just being able to change our students' entire lives and the lives of their families through education. And so I started my educational journey there. I was then the advanced academic officer at that same campus, an assistant principal, the associate principal of instruction, and then I moved to a different campus within our same district and became the principal at Alief Early College High School, where I have been the past 7 years, and recently transitioned to the district office as the Director of Advanced Academics and Post-Secondary Outcomes K-12 for our 42 campuses here in the district. So it's been quite the
Wow.
journey and an amazing experience, to say the least.
Oh, that's amazing and a great story too. I guess that was kind of a shock going from small town to one of the largest cities, I guess, in the country. So,
Yes.
wow. Yeah.
And actually, the school that I started at was at the time the eighth largest high school in the state of Texas. And so, definitely a big shift for me moving into that. But wow, the experiences will last a lifetime.
That's awesome. Now, you said you were a coach. Do you feel like coaching helped you move and transition into each role? Do you think that maybe played a part? Because I haven't had many people that shared that they, had a background in coaching as well. So I find that interesting and wonder if you feel like that helped.
Yeah, I most definitely do. I think that from coaching, you're able to approach situations just a little bit differently. And not only the approach, but the connection that you learn to make with people so that they will work for you is a different level. And so,
Mm,
learning how to truly foster those really tight connections and relationships, and then really putting into practice this idea of I'm not just telling you what to do, I'm teaching you how to do it so that whenever the game day comes, right? Whenever the test comes, whatever it is, you've been prepared for this. It's not something I'm just throwing at you. So, really, the process, I think coaching really helped me to understand the
mm.
process of outcomes. And you don't get to skip the process and jump to the outcome. The outcome is a result of the process that you've put in all of these days in whatever realm that's in.
Oh, I really like that, and I think that's a good analogy and a good thing for leaders to really think about is that the process because you're wanting to get somewhere, but it's the process that gets you there. As I think back, I started out with coaching as well, and the thing I think I bring from it is how to deal with irate parents.
Definitely that too.
Probably, when you think about sports and parents with their children, they're usually, more passionate about that than they even are about their school. So I think you learn conflict and how to handle it with
Absolutely.
those experiences as well. But the process, you're absolutely right. I think that's so true and a good place to learn it. And it's a practical experience. You see and you know that that's how it works and you can transition that. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
As you look at your moving into leadership and especially running a school and a blue ribbon school at that, congratulations. What do you think was your like probably one or two strengths that you feel like really have helped you be successful and continue to grow and to move in your leadership capacity?
I think that so often we put this emphasis on student achievement and academic success. And while I do believe wholeheartedly that that is really the ultimate goal for a lot of people, for me, the ultimate goal is bigger than that. The ultimate goal for me is to connect with people in order for the mission and vision to be executed. Because the only way that the mission and vision can be executed is through connection and through human interaction. And so, whenever you think about that, we really have to be intentional with our emotional intelligence, with
Mm,
knowing how to build these relationships, how to be empathetic, how to truly form relationships with people where they then can help create the culture and the environment where that student achievement can be seen. So, whenever we
mm,
think about like the one or two things, right? The one or two things really is this connection to people to build the culture. That's it. And when you build that, the result of that building process renders the outcomes that you want. And I think a lot of times we get it backwards. We try to push student achievement without first building the connections and the relationships. Where when we all know when kids come to school, they learn. Well, the same is true of teachers. When teachers come to school and are happy, they can effectively teach. And so
mm.
once you create that environment, now you've created a space where success is truly the only option.
That's so true. I mean, I didn't coin it, but I use it all the time that, the teacher's working environment is the student's learning environment. And like
Right.
you said, how they enter the classroom, how they feel at school, it really their morale level, their feeling valued really does affect the classroom and how they teach and how the students are going to learn. It's interesting because we a lot of times don't think of EQ as being that important, but the research says that really is probably the most important factor, the single most important factor in a leader being effective. And so, it's not like, I guess people think of it as like a soft skill, but a lot of leaders really aren't highly effective in that. And that's one of the reasons I think that they struggle in their leadership role. It's not that they maybe don't have leadership qualities and be able to manage and things, but it really is that, like you said, the ability to build connections, and some may struggle with that. But fortunately, I think it is, and it is something that you can improve on if you focus on it. And I think those that maybe struggle with it, that's something they really do need to, work on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely the EQ. I really do. I mean, because everything I post, everything I talk about is relationships, building relationships, and I like what you said too of doing it in a way that you see them as people first.
That's right.
But even before they're the professional or the teacher, you're trying to make that connection with them on a human level, I believe is how you put it. And to me, that goes a long way when they see you putting in that effort to do that. It really does allow them to trust you and to
That's
have
right.
confidence in you and to believe in you, which is so important for a leader. That's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I actually, whenever we do these climate surveys, whether it's around SEL or whether it's around overall climate of your campus this past year, the teachers write the verbatims, right? Where they actually can type something in. And those are always kind of scary as the principal. You're like, let me open this and read this. But one that really just kind of gave me life in this past year is one of my teachers wrote as to why she loves her work and why she comes and does these things every day for our kids. And she said, yes, I love the kids, but I never want to let Dr. B down. And that was like,
Uh,
yeah, like we have this connection where our teachers are going to do everything in their power to make this place successful. Because once you've hit that level, you've got it made, right? They're gonna do anything for you.
Absolutely. I think that's so true because teachers really are, they tend to be high agreeable, they're kind, they're caring, empathetic. And when they have a leader that they see is that way with them, like you said, I mean, they'll run through a wall through a wall for you. They really do have that type of mentality towards a leader like that. So that is wonderful feedback and, you
It is.
know,
I'll tell
is
you, I'll tell
encouraging
you,
to you.
Brad, I'm tough. I'll tell you, I'm tough and I'm hard and I have high expectations. And, my teachers and even my kids, they'll say, oh, yeah, Dr. B's crazy. Like, make sure you do what she says. She's crazy, right? She's tough. But at the end of the day, they know I love them more than anything, right? And so, whether we agree or disagree, whether we're always on the same page, at the end of the day, these people know I love them. And so, therefore, the outcome is always going to be right, even if we have to make adjustments to it, even if we have to have some crucial conversations. And that makes those a little bit easier of walking this line of accountability because we know we love each other, right? And so everything's going to be okay despite how we get to the end results.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's so true. Sometimes when people hear relationship, they always think just, oh, warm and fuzzy, and you maybe let them walk all over you. But in a real relationship, even think of a personal one. I mean, you really do. You have expectations. Sometimes you have to have hard conversations, you know, push people to be their best because you do have a relationship with them. And so, like you said, sometimes you have to do that and you kind of have to push people maybe further than they thought they could go.
And when I coach leaders, I talk to them a lot about this line of love and accountability, right? So we have love on this side, the relationship, we have accountability on this side. And leaders, a lot of times, we think we have to pick a side because we're afraid that if we walk too close to this line of a love and accountability, then the respect that you speak of will be lost. But really, what I've found is it's the exact opposite. Whenever you love someone, sometimes that means tough love. But at the end of the day, I can hold you accountable because I love you and you know I care about you. And our kids are at the heart of every decision we make. And when that's made as close to that line of love and accountability as possible, it's always the right decision, right?
Yeah.
And we can sleep at night knowing that we have done our best by kids every single day.
Yeah. That's powerful. That's so true. So true. I think sometimes in leadership we lose that. You talked about love and accountability. I call it assertiveness and compassion, but it's
Mhm.
the same thought, and it is so true. When you look back on your own educational journey, is there anyone either from your like K through 12 education yourself or moving through your roles, has there been a person or maybe multiple people that have influenced you or really pushed you to be more than you thought you could be?
Absolutely. And I always talk about this spark of belief, right? Sometimes it just takes one person to believe in you, one teacher to believe in a kid to change their whole life. And I really think that's what happened to me. Like I said, I'm a first gen. I wanted to be a teacher, and I was that, right? But my principal at my first school when I was 22 years old, her name is Hilda Rodriguez, she believed in me and she saw something in me. And quite frankly, she was the first person that I had ever seen that looked like me in the position that she held. She was a Hispanic female, and she, for whatever reason, saw something in me and encouraged me to go into administration to get my master's. She held me accountable. She taught me and she invested in me. And through that investment, I'm here today. And I remember I was at a conference with her one day and she said, Brandi, you need to get your doctorate. And I said, I am not, I don't even have my master's. And you're telling me to get my doctorate. And she said, no, you need to get your doctorate. And it's so much bigger than you. This is about being an example for those that look up
Mm,
to you that you don't even know look up to you, right? And so, long story short, I clearly went back and got my doctorate and am now one of the 0.4% of Hispanic women in the United States that have their doctorate. But really, just being able to be that light of hope for the young men and women that look up to me is so powerful to me. And I feel like without her, that would have never happened. And so I am forever grateful and indebted to her for her belief that was just a little spark that has ignited a fire that I pray will last for generations to come.
oh. Would you share her name again? That way, if she listens, she can beam with pride one more time.
Yes, her name is Miss Hilda Rodriguez.
Hilda
Yeah,
Rodriguez. Awesome.
she is the one for me.
That's awesome. And it's so important when we have, like you said, someone that sees something in us that maybe we don't even see ourselves and push us to be our very best self. And, one of the things I share with leaders is be a talent scout. Look for people and what they bring, look for their strengths. Because in education, in general, whether it's students or even with teachers, we're always so focused on weaknesses and trying to bring them up that, we so often overlook people's strengths, which is the most important part of them. And, when we can identify those and see those and help them develop them, just like with you, the potential is unlimited when you're able to do that. And then the impact that you can have is that much greater than you even thought. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's wonderful. That is awesome. What do you think has been, and maybe there hasn't been, but what do you think's been like your toughest challenge moving through, especially like you say, coming from being a first generation, you probably put a lot of pressure on yourself that maybe others didn't anyway. But because I am too, I'm first generation, so I kept going, kept pushing, and you know tried to have the mindset that I would get through challenges no matter what. But I think we all endure them. Has there been any though particular that maybe you had a tougher time with or not?
I don't know that it's necessarily something specific, but more just having this idea that everything that I do, the way that I operate, has to always be perfect, right?
Mm,
And whenever you're trying to live up to this standard that isn't attainable, sometimes you lose your authenticity in that feat. And so I think that there's just this idea that perfection is the standard. And so whenever I reflect on my own journey, even now, I have to find myself extending grace to say,
mm,
it's okay to mess up as a leader. It's okay to make the wrong decision as a leader. Because when we act authentically, people respect that and then see you as a person that they can follow, because guess what? Dr. B made a mistake and she admitted it, and life goes on, right? But when people see you as being perfect instead of authentic, then there becomes this line of, I can't connect to you because we're not the
mm.
same. And so I really always try to extend myself grace and those around me grace to say, we're going to work so hard together as leaders. And we're going to make the best decisions that we can for our schools and for our kids and for our families every day. And sometimes those are going to be the right decisions, and sometimes they're going to be the wrong decisions. And if they're the wrong decisions, the question is, how do we fix it? How do we make it right? And how do we come together as this collaborative family, as this team, to make it right, so that people from the outside looking in and from the inside looking out know that we are real and have their best interest at heart. And so I think just really trying to navigate this space of operating in authenticity in this world of social media where you see things online and everything seems perfect is really important for leaders to understand, and something that I myself struggle with as well.
Yeah, I think in education that is a big thing. Is we think there's just such scrutiny and pressure put on educators that we do feel like we have to be perfect,
Yeah.
and we're often our own worst critic. That's why I really like that you said give yourself grace, not just other people,
Right.
because we do. But it is odd that we know that we can't be perfect, but yet we still feel like we have to try and be that way. So I love that perspective, and that's what you thought of, because I think so many educators do. And hopefully they'll hear this and say, hey, you know what? I need to give myself some grace and realize that I know I can't be perfect. So I need to stop trying to live up to a standard that's unattainable anyway.
Right, absolutely. And I think just people want to see someone that is real. And it doesn't mean that, things are always going to be how you want them to be. But when they see this realness and they see your heart and they see that the effort is there to make things right, they can respect that and say, okay, this leader is the real deal, right? She's the real deal.
Yeah. And the thing is, we should be okay with failure. We tell our students, it's okay. And so I think we have to learn how to be that way ourselves. I remember
Absolutely.
going skiing for the first time and the only time. It wasn't something that I could do, but I remember one of my friends asking me. He said, "How many times did you fall down?" And I said, "I don't know. It was every few seconds, it seemed like." And he said, good. He said, because, think about it. If you're up there trying to do something new, he's like, if you're not falling, you're not trying hard enough. And I was
Mhm.
like, and I took that with me going forward. And so, throughout life, I've always felt like, if I'm not failing a little, or running into hard times, I'm probably not trying hard enough.
I love that.
Yeah. So I think that is a good perspective to have. So, I agree with you 100%. And that authenticity, like you said, just, we're people first and we have to connect on that level first
Yeah,
before,
absolutely.
even from the educational standpoint.
Yeah.
When we think about your roles and as a principal, we think about the time that you have to put in leadership roles, we tend to almost be workaholics.
Yeah.
But how do you find time to take care of yourself or to, hate the word balance, but how do you, take that time for yourself and to replenish so that you can be your best?
Right. So I will tell people all of the time that this isn't my job. This is a calling. And I'm on assignment to be a difference maker in people's lives. And so I have to make sure that I'm able to do that. And in order to be able to do that, I have to take care of me. And I think that a lot of times we think, oh, well, it's selfish if we take care of ourselves, or if I spend some time for myself, it's selfish because I have all of these other things like you've mentioned. And so I am extremely intentional with making sure that I take care of not only my physical health, but also my mental health and my family. And those things always come first. Every morning, my alarm clock goes off at 3:30 a.m. and I go to the gym every morning and work out Monday through Friday. And it starts the tone and sets the tone for my day to be a phenomenal day. Um, Now, that means I have to go to bed at night. And so that is also a piece of self care. And really just making sure that I am intentional with the time that I spend with my family, with my daughter, um, and then having this understanding that work is also a piece of my family because it's not really work, right? And so making sure that whenever I step into this space, that I'm in for my calling, that it gets all of me. And so I think with the intentionality of taking care of myself physically and mentally, and then having this space that really I don't think I'm going to work and sit in the parking lot like, oh no, it really helps me to be grounded in knowing that this purpose is for something so much bigger than myself.
Yeah. But I think it's so important, like you said, to set those boundaries.
Mhm.
This is time with my family. This is time for me. This is time for sleep.
Yeah,
Because I think sometimes we don't even get. I remember somebody I was talking to said we don't get the basics right. We're always looking for these tricks and things, and the reality is we just need to make sure we get enough sleep, that we eat the right foods, and
that's
that
right.
those little things are so important too. But I like the boundary setting. I think some people have a problem with that, or aren't very good at it, don't know how to say no sometimes, or feel guilty when they do. But
Yeah.
like you said, you have to be your best. So you have to make sure you set those boundaries so that you can.
And I wrote a book that's coming out soon. It's called Culture Catalyst, and it's components to creating a positive school culture to drive student achievement. And my specialist at my previous school was reading it, and she was like, Dr. B, like, this is great, but what if I don't have the capacity to do all of these things? She's like, some people are just built different. You're built different, Dr. B. Like, you can do all of these things. And like, I just don't have the emotional capacity to do all of these things. Like, so how do I still have impact and influence if I can't do all the things? And it really made me reflect. And we talked about how can you do one thing? How can you commit to one thing? And
Mm,
then once you begin to believe in that one thing, it's not so difficult and it doesn't take so much of your capacity. And now I can commit to another thing. And so I think sometimes we get wrapped up in trying to do everything at once instead of just doing one or two things really, really well. And then those one or two things drive the outcomes of all of the other things that you're so concerned about. I think that's a piece of self-care as well, is knowing what are your true priorities and how do you focus on them to give your best self to them.
Oh, I love that. And what's the name of your book again?
It's Culture Catalyst:
Culture Catalyst. All right.
Components to Improving Student Achievement. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll add that to the website
Yeah, for sure.
when we post the podcast. So excellent. Yeah. Wonderful. If you could think back, like as you began your leadership journey and reflecting on the last few years, what would be like one piece of advice or one nugget of wisdom that you think would be important for you starting out again or for someone that's moving into leadership to take?
I think the biggest piece of advice whenever I really think about new leaders or even leaders that just want to reset is to understand that leadership is sometimes very lonely. And
Mm,
sometimes we find ourselves in these spaces where we're not sure how to shine our light effectively. And so, what my message would be is always find joy in the work that you do. And you find that joy through genuine connections. And once your light starts to shine, don't let anyone dim it. Because we
mm,
find a lot of times in these positions that for whatever reason, someone may not like your light, but your light is for the world. And whenever you are making a true impact in the life of others, that light should be shined as bright as you can shine it, despite who is for it or against it, in
mm.
hopes that that spark will light someone else. And so that this message of positivity and success and love and joy can be spread throughout, specifically in public education, because this work is so hard, but it's so good and it's so rewarding if we do it right.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, just let your light shine.
Right.
I
That's
love
right.
it. Yeah, absolutely. And it is a lonely job sometimes, especially, I think principal is one of the toughest lonely jobs because you're always kind of struggling between the district mandates and trying to connect with your staff and it can be. But I love that idea, let it shine. Not everybody may like you, and that's okay. They may not, some people like tea, some people like coffee.
That's right.
Um, but just keep shining. I love that. Just keep shining.
Yes. Just keep
Wonderful.
shining.
All right, I have one last question for you, and this kind of goes back to that because what you like or don't like. But what is your favorite hot beverage?
My favorite hot beverage is a venti caramel macchiato, non-fat milk, sugar-free vanilla, upside down and stirred from Starbucks, and I'm so ashamed I just said all of that. And the saddest part about all of this is whenever I pull into the drive-through in the mornings, Scotty, he's my barista. He's like, "Hey, good morning, Brandy. Are we doing the usual?" We are. And I just pull right around and I don't even have to tell him. So I don't have to be ashamed of my order in the mornings because he knows it.
That's so funny. Yeah, when you have a usual, yeah, that's definitely a,
Yes.
a
If
next
he's not
level with
there,
it.
whenever he's not there, I'm like, "Oh no. Okay, here we go. Here we go."
You got to explain it.
That's right.
But that's okay. That's okay.
It is okay.
Yeah. So, and and I called this lattes and leaders. I like chai latte from
Okay.
Starbucks, and
Uh-huh.
but I don't drink them that often. But I just and the name of it was from when I did mentoring with administrators and stuff. I would usually meet them in a coffee shop or a Starbucks or
Mhm.
something. And that's what I wanted this whole concept to be, just chatting like we're, in a coffee shop and you're
Yeah, I love
drinking
it.
your non-fat venti. Hold on, let me see if I can remember your venti. macchiato,
Caramel
no
macchiato,
non caramel macchiato, non-fat milk, sugar-free
sugar-free vanilla,
vanilla, and
upside
something
down,
upside down
and stirred.
and stirred. Sounds like James Bond with the stir, shaken, not stirred, or stirred, not shaken. I don't know. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I loved your story and the great work that you're doing and moving to the next level and your book coming out. I can't wait to get a copy of it and read it. And just all that you're doing and the inspiration that you bring to the field and the difference that you're making. Just thank you so much for that and taking the time today just to spend with us and share some of that.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work you do. We appreciate everything that you do.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I hope you have a great rest of the year
Thank you.
and enjoy your Starbucks in the morning.
I sure will. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
This has been Lattes and Leaders with Dr. Brad Johnson. We hope that you leave today feeling informed and inspired. For more educational content, be sure to add this podcast to your list and follow Dr. Johnson on any and all social media platforms. For more information on Dr. Johnson, Jeremy Johnson, and special guest, check out drbradjohnson.com. That is DOCTOR, bradjohnson.com. Hope to have you back soon.